with Tim Gilbert and Julie Snook. This is Racing Dreams.
Happy Easter, everyone. What a time of the year for racing. Jules, day 2 of the championships. So exciting.
Oh, so exciting. Good morning to you at home. A big day coming up at Royal Randwick today. The sun is shining. It looks picture perfect out there. I've already loaded up on way too many hot cross buns. We've also got a big show coming up for you, so let's take a look. Dubai Honour and Animo go head-to-head in a Queen Elizabeth for the ages.
The next generation of racing stars go under the hammer at the annual Easter yearling sale.
And we catch up with the one and only, the great John Massara, after a record-breaking draft of 68 yearlings at the Easter sales. We do love the babies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was out there during the week and we've discussed food a little bit, haven't we, so far? But
it's the one weekend that you can.
Thank you very much to the Arrowfield Catering. Now, another 4 Group 1s at Royal Randwick today for day 2 of the championships. It's always wonderful to have one of the greats with us, racing expert Lizzie Jelves. Happy Easter and welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Good morning, Julie. Yes, happy Easter to yourselves and happy Easter to all the viewers as well. It does look to be a bumper weekend here at Royal Randwick, as you mentioned. It's day 2 of the championships, highlighted by Dubai Honour v Animo. Or is it just Dubai Honour and Animo? There's plenty of others who really want to wear that Queen Elizabeth crown.
We'll get to that in just a moment, Lizzie, but first of all, we saw the conditions out there at Randwick change so quickly last week. It's looking a little bit breezy out there this morning, but how is the track faring ahead of day 2 of the champs?
Well, it's unfortunate. This time of year we are accustomed to getting quite a large amount of rain, and we have had over 100 mils here at Royal Randwick over the last 10 days, so that has sort of held it in that heavy 8 range. There is a really strong westerly, as you can see. Julie, I've got my hair up because I know that you say that's how you have to do things on TV when it's windy, and hopefully that will improve the track a little bit. But look, I think we're definitely dealing in that heavy range. What we're dealing with is horses that handled a track like last week, so that heavy, genuine heavy surface. You either get through it or you don't, and there's a few horses there who are certainly going to excel on this surface today.
I don't think any of us will forget the day that Winks won the Queen Elizabeth Stakes to say farewell a few years ago. It was just an extraordinary day. But when it comes to horse racing, this is almost the best we've seen when it comes to the Queen Elizabeth Stakes.
Well, the Australian Turf Club and Racing New South Wales have assembled an international stellar cast here at Royal Randwick. We've got not only internationals throughout the Queen Elizabeth, we've got littered with a horse called Alcohol Free who runs in the Queen of the Turf, who's been purchased by Yulong. So it's certainly an amazing day, and it's not just about the Queen Elizabeth. We're seeing some really top class horses, top class jockeys going around. We've got Joe Moreira here who rode a Group 1 winner last week. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to, and as you mentioned, the Queen Elizabeth, who can forget Winks going out on such a high swan song a few years ago, and I'm sure we're going to see not the same scenes, but we'll see very much excitable scenes, and we'll see lots of certainly crowds enjoying what we have on offer here at Royal Randwick.
Let's hone in on that Queen Elizabeth for a moment. What are your thoughts on this whole Animo Dubai Honour battle? Don't forget we've got the Japanese runner Unicorn Line as well, but how much of an impact does this heavy 8 have when it comes to the likes of Animo?
Well, Animo is an incredible horse. He's going for his 10th Group 1. He's going for his 7th Group 1 this season, which is quite remarkable. Dubai Honour is a bit of an up-and-comer. He's been able to win his very first Group 1, but the way and the style that he was able to do that in the Ranvet was just quite astonishing to see him perform at that level. We do know that Animo on a wet track is probably not as dynamic, and we do know that Dubai Honour would appreciate getting his toe into the ground. You look at the training combination as well. James Cummings, well, he tops the list with Group 1 wins this season. And then you look at William Haggis, who's brought 17 horses out here to Australia. 12 of them have run in Sydney, 7 of them have been winners, and 4 of them at Group 1 level. So it is certainly a battle royale.
What about the Australian Oaks? We have 4 Group 1s today. What do you think?
I think that it really brings a horse like Fireburn, who was able to win the Golden Slipper, into the Oaks. She has been racing consistently on ground that hasn't probably been right in her wheelhouse. Today she gets a heavy track. It is at sort of the end of her trip, the 2,400 metres. It's quite remarkable to think a Golden Slipper winner is going to be running in an Australian Oaks over the 2400 metres. It was done before by Miss Finland. That was in the VRC Oaks. So she would be creating a little bit of history. But I think that it really brings her into the race. There's a lot of young horses who are up-and-comers, but I think the class of the field is Fireburn.
Race 7, the $2 million Sydney Cup. What are your thoughts on this year's field for the 158th running of the Cup?
Yeah, it's a great race. There's so many ways you can look. Again, there's another international in this race called Cleveland. He's been bought over by Joseph O'Brien. He ran previously in the Tancred. He ran very well. He hit the line beautifully. That's the sort of look you're looking for, a horse that's coming through their paces and finding the line, and that's why he is the favourite at the moment. I personally think it's a much more open race. There's a lot of horses who drop down in the weights, including Cleveland, but a horse like Arapaho, who also went on and won the Tancred, he looks as though he's really well placed, and I'd love to see Rachel King win another Sydney Cup. But it's a fascinating renewal. There's definitely more depth to this year's Sydney Cup. It's probably one of the strongest that I've seen in my time assessing races in Sydney.
Yeah, some cracking races. Pardon me, everywhere you look, Autumn Ballet and the Percy Sykes, we've got the Arrowfield. And what about the Queen of the Turf? You mentioned it briefly at the start.
Yeah, it's a really deep race, Tim. There's plenty of chances. We see this mare, Alcohol Free, who was able to win the July Cup in Europe. She's probably one of the better sprinting stars that we've seen come over from the UK. She runs first up for Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott. She was purchased by Yulong for $10 million. So it's an awful lot online seeing her race in today's Queen of the Turf. There's a lot of horses who are in terrific form. So definitely my advice in that race is to go a little bit wide. There's plenty of horses who are racing well, her being the unknown and the class factor, but there's certainly a heap of mares who are going to run really, really well.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you, Lizzie. It's always a pleasure. And my tip is listen to Lizzie Jelfs on the coverage today, because she picked Arts from the yard last week, paying very, very well. She was very popular with the punters. So lovely to see you. Thank you, Lizzie.
Thanks, guys.
A 9-time Group 1 champion, one of Britain's best and exciting Japanese front runners. The 70th running of the Longines Queen Elizabeth Stakes is shaping up to be one of the best yet.
William Haggar's going to do it again. Dubai 3 lengths clear. Last year's winner, Montefilia, can't get there, and Dubai can't handle a dry track. Look at him go. Animo lays it down to Converge, and the big A Animo puts the head in front. Rattling home is Fangirl. Animo's George Ryder.
He's the best horse in Australia and a proven Group 1 star. Our horse has only won one Group 1 race, and that was 2 weeks ago.
These clashes are what horse racing needs, and they draw attention, and you know, you're putting two of the best to show up against each other, and I'm a champion. There's no getting away from it. He's won 9 Group 1s, and he's done it from 7 furlongs up to the 10. So there's not many chinks in his armour.
Australia's champion. Here's the barrier. Barrier 8. Here's the barrier for Dubai Honour, the equal favourite. Barrier 9, they're together.
You can get caught up in pace maps and tactics, and realistically, you know, it's his second run here. We don't know how he's going to react, or sharpened up or not sharpened up in that first run.
There's nothing you can do about the draw or the weather, I find, so it's the jockey's problem, not mine. There are 14 runners, so it's although it's billed as possibly a 2-horse race, it won't be.
Let's get to the barrier draw for the Sweps Sydney Cup, worth $2 million.
It's a bit like a game of chess, I suppose, especially with those draws. It's great to compete at a higher level, Group 1 race, in a handicap event. There's a lot that helps determine the result. We'll be looking to try and win another one on the weekend.
This is the favourite in the Sydney Cup, 51 kilos, John Ingham, to draw the barrier for Cleveland. 17.
We know that barriers mean nothing once they open. It's about trying to offset them and get into the race, and his last run here in the Tancred showed that he's in pretty good form, showed that he's landed in Australia, and I'm sure he'll just come out of that nicely and be ready to run a really good race on Saturday.
He's really gone well his last 2 starts and been aided by good gates those last 2 runs. So I think it's important he drew well on Saturday, so very happy with gate 8. She won the Sydney Cup last year, so she's going for back-to-back wins, and she gets on with this horse so well. So no, they've been a great combination for the best part of the year, and they've been icing on the cake for a great preparation already.
Nice.
Great to see Rachel King do well today. Well, of course, Sydney is playing host to a record number of international horses this autumn. We just heard a few of those names. Timmy, to talk more on this, we're joined by Executive General Manager of Racing and Wagering at the ATC, a very busy man indeed, James Ross. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Tim.
Hey, James, I just mentioned to Lizzie, and we've been discussing it here, it's arguably the greatest Queen Elizabeth Stakes we've seen.
Oh, certainly. I think we're really pleased. I think we had the winners of 22 Group 1 races and over $36 million in prize money between them. So it's a great lineup. I think we're so happy that the local contingent has so much strength. The 9-time winner in Animo could be going out in great style, farewelling Sydney racing, and horses that are so celebrated by our local fans, such as Montefilia. She's been a very special mare, and she's probably bowing out in a similar fashion. So, yeah, very deep race, and we've got a couple of overseas raiders in Dubai Honour and also Unicorn Line to make things really interesting. So the race has a lot of depth this year, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to celebrate the best of international racing and the best of Australian racing.
You'd have to say that the entire carnival, the autumn, has had a lot of depth this year, and you and the team at the ATC have been working so hard to bring these internationals back out here. I mean, it's so fantastic to see the likes of Joseph O'Brien out here and William Haggis. He hasn't been here in 40 years, and now he's out here, and what an impact he's making with the likes of Dubai Honour.
Yeah, look, it really is, Julie. A lot of what we do here is to try and create the best races each year, and the Sydney Autumn Carnival continues to grow. I think we're in the 10th year of the championships, and to have 3 of the world's best trainers, on our shores competing against, the likes of Chris Waller is really exciting. We saw the boost that Australian racing got out of Nature Strip winning at Ascot last year, and I think this is producing a similar boost for Sydney racing. I think Yoshido Yahagi is someone who's globally recognised. He's been successful not only in Australia, but Dubai, the Breeders' Cup and Hong Kong, as well as a leading trainer in his own jurisdiction. So he's had long-range plans to support our carnival and has brought a couple of nice horses this year, and we'll see him compete in the all-age stakes with Ho-Oh Amazon next year. But look, I think every year we set a 6-month plan. We try to attract the best horses from not only Sydney, but interstate, and then also New Zealand particularly. We've had fantastic support from our New Zealanders. 4 runners in the Derby last week. We've got the second favourite, Penny Weaker, in the Oaks. So it's all about creating the best races for the best fans for Sydney racing. But to see our flagship races really stand up this year, the Longines Queen Elizabeth Stakes, which has been raised to $5 million with the assistance of Racing New South Wales, and also the Swept Sydney Cup have so much depth in it. I think it's really satisfying for the club, absolutely.
Yeah, a breeze about. The weather's been all over the shop the past 10 days, 2 weeks in Sydney, but heavy 8. I looked at Michael Wood's assessment of the track yesterday. With that breeze, is there any chance we could get into that soft range, do you think? What's your gut feel on that one, James?
Look, I think Michael and the team are quite pleased in the fact that we've had very favourable conditions for today, but obviously a big challenge for that team. To have your monthly rainfall fall in the first few days of the month and deal with 100 millimetres of rain across the week certainly probably puts them in a position that they'd rather not be, but certainly an improving track. We had the worst kind of rainfall throughout the meeting last week, and this is really pleasing to see the sun out, see great winds, see us improving, and I think everyone should have a lot of confidence today on an even surface. So I think that's really important from a track's perspective, and a very minimal number of overall scratchings today. So.
And right on cue, the leaf blower has started there at Randwick, just as it does when we're on air each and every week. This week, James, the full 10 race card will be simulcast into Hong Kong with the Queen Elizabeth playing into Japan as well. What has the feedback been from these trainers that they're finally, after the last couple of years in COVID and everything that we've seen, being able to get their runners out here and being able to come out here themselves?
Oh, look, I think to have a globalised audience is really important for our racing. Our racing will go into over 60 countries this year, and to see a full card simulcast into Hong Kong, to see so many riders throughout this carnival come down, not only Zach Purton but Hugh Bowman and also Joe Moreira here, that's particularly pleasing, but also to have simulcast into Japan for that audience, so those fans and those punters can support their horses. That's absolutely important. And we've got a lot of global partners that are part of the championships, and Longines reach is far and wide. That's why they're part of such a significant Sydney event. So to have such a fantastic event on a global stage is very exciting, and I think this year's renewal promises to be one of the best in the 10-year history of the championships.
Yeah, and good signs that the sale during the week, a really strong Easter sale, which helps the industry, whichever way you look at it.
Absolutely, Tim. I think the depth of racing across this day, I think we've got $12 million in prize money. The Queen of the Turf's fantastic, and as we said, we had those 20 international horses come in. A number of those to local stables, which is a big part of what we're doing in Sydney, is to have Australian owners purchase these horses and Australian trainers train them, and for them to contribute to our racing throughout the year. And I think we've got 3 of those horses competing in the Queen of the Turf. So that race is really interesting, and it's going to be a great day for everyone to come to Randwick. We're going to finish the day off with one of our usual DJs here, and to have this sunshine on this type of day, I think racegoers will have one of the best days they've had in recent times.
Oh, get out there and enjoy a hot tub time machine at the end of the day. It's always good fun. James Ross, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us on such a big day.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, have a great Easter, James. Thank you.
Well, top English jockey Tom Marquand is chasing his 3rd victory in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. He has broken our hearts in the past. This year, he's partnering with Dubai Honour for William Haggis.
Goes to 3rd, but a Dave's full of running at the 100 metres. In fact, he's ripping clear now, and a big win for a Dave in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes.
For me, it's great competitive racing. Like you come down, especially through the autumn carnival. Like you've got Group 1s every weekend, you've got stakes races every weekend, and I mean, how can you not enjoy that as a jockey?
Master of Wine's getting into the back of the Japanese horse. And a Dave makes the move now at the 400 metres, and a Dave draws clear. But
that was a pretty special year because that was my first Group 1 winner as well, and I was riding out on the Tuesday before Dave was running the Randwick and got kicked, and I actually fractured the top of my fibula head, but managed to keep that one quite quiet. Obviously, he went on and won the QE2 or Queen Elizabeth Stakes in like insane fashion. I mean, he blitzed them. So yeah, it was pretty nice feeling going home with 2 fairly sizable trophies in the bag.
And a big win for a Dave in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. A Dave's lifting, he fends off Very Elegant and Delasan, and a Dave goes back to back. The Beast of Britain's done it.
So the second year, obviously, we had crowds back, and that was like, I don't think I'll get a kick again like that on a horse, to be honest. Like that was insane. But it was all the build up. He'd been beaten, and racing was called off for a week, and then we ended up racing on, I think it was a good 4, and like we just thought everything had gone wrong. It felt like everything had gone wrong, and when he pulled it off, like that got me a bit hyped, and coming back in to have a crowd as well was nice, just to sort of have that reception for him.
Welcome back. You're watching Racing Dreams on this Easter long weekend. The eyes of the thoroughbred racing industry were on Warwick Farm this week with the Inglis Easter yearling sale.
Yeah, absolutely, Jules. A record draft for Arrowfield, 68 potential champions of tomorrow. I ducked out to the Inglis complex during the week to catch up with the man himself, Mr. Arrowfield, John Massara.
The 325,000 he goes this time. I second 325. Last chance. Done. 325, thank you.
Well, John Massara, 68 horses, a record draft for Arrowfield, and this sale has been beyond expectations.
Way beyond expectations. I must say I came here with some trepidation, but it's amazing. Of course, the horses in the sale are very, very good horses, well bred, prepared to the minute. But the money's here, and the sale is above last year's, and last year's was a record sale. So how do you figure that? But very pleased about it anyway.
It almost goes to that saying, I think it might have been Gucci, the quality is remembered long after the price is forgotten, and that's what this sale's all about.
Very much so. And those good pedigrees, good types of horses, people are fighting over at the moment.
We can't go through all 68, but you've just come in from the ring and a full brother to Esther Jubb. Tell us a bit more about that one.
Well, he was a lovely, loose-walking, super athletic, supple horse, colt. And he's a full brother to Esther Jubb and to Remark, who's one of my favourite horses. And I think he's a stakes winner in the wings, in waiting. I think he'll win a stakes race. He's stakes placed several times. But he was well sought by syndicators, stallion-type syndicators. And there was a battle between 2 or 3 of them, and he went to 1.4 million. Very pleased, very pleased.
68's a lot. A lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It was about 1 horse every 6 or 7 lots. So there's no rest at all. You've got to keep your concentration up. And meanwhile, clients are coming to see you. What about this horse? Should we do this? What should we do? It's difficult, but we've got a great team, and we're getting through it.
And John, a great couple of weekends, the championships, and so steeped in history. I know you're a student of history, and I did a function recently at the ATC, and they brought out the Doncaster Trophy. It's in 3 parts. Yeah. Goes back to the middle 1800s. It's such a wonderful historic time for this industry.
Yeah, that's a race that I was involved in, a carnival I was involved in establishing in its current mode when I was the chair of Racing New South Wales some 10 years ago. And in fact, it's 10 years old, the championships. And the idea was to leverage up on those great races of the past, the Doncaster, the Derby, and all the great races, and get some order in them and have them over 2 Saturdays and plonk the sales in the middle between the two, so that it was a time where people come to New South Wales, to Sydney in fact, and if you loved horses or you're interested in thoroughbreds, well, you're going to see the best of racing and the best of breeding. And I think it's worked pretty well.
Oh, absolutely, you're modest. The Queen Elizabeth Stakes, this could be the best Queen Elizabeth Stakes we've ever seen. An international flavour.
Well, yeah, and an old boy against a younger lad, and the younger lad is our champ, Animo. And it'll be interesting to see how those two fight it out. We're all plumping for Animo, but William Haggis's horse put the writing on the wall there a couple of weeks ago, so it's going to be a great race.
Well, let's have a look at the Arrowfield interest. Well, there's interest everywhere, all around the country, because when you think of Schnitzels and Autumn Suns, we've got in front of an Autumn Sun right here, done deals. But what about your own race, the Arrowfield? You've got one there.
Well, we've got a filly from Melbourne that's a very speedy filly called Wee Nessie, which we own in partnership with a client of ours, a friend of ours. And she's a chance in the race. She loves the wet track. So I'm one of the few people that's not cheering for a wet track, but I won't be too worried if it is wet. And you know, she'll be running in the Arrowfield, our own race, so that'd be a thrill if she could run a bit of a race there.
And really sentimental for you, I know. Autumn Ballet, of course, in the Percy Sykes. He's a great friend of yours. Yeah. Trained by Gay Waterhouse. Amazing in the Black Opal. Starting favourite. She'll start favourite in the Percy Sykes.
Yes, she's currently the favourite, and she was bred at Arrowfield, and in her first start, very unusually, she won a Group 3. It's very hard to win a group race first time out. She was very impressive, and I'm looking forward to Saturday for that.
She's a nice horse, and Autumn Sun is now starting to really grow in significance because of not only Autumn Ballet, but the other horses that are coming through.
They're coming through now. He's only had 6 starters, and amongst them is Autumn Ballet, a Group 3 winner, and Tulsi, a Group 1 place getter in New Zealand, out of only 6 starters. That's a very good start, I must say.
I just had a message in my ear. I think there's another Arrowfield horse about to go under the hammer, so I better let you go.
Okay, thanks very much, Timmy.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much to the charcuterie plate from Arrowfield out there. It was sensational.
I think they've named it the Gilbert.
Yeah, well, why not? Why not? I can see every reason for that. Now, what a day of racing we have out ahead of us at Royal Randwick. 4 Group 1s in all, including the Australian Oaks on day 2 of the championships.
That is a perfect segue to our next guest. Part 2 of our chat with the great Gay Waterhouse and her connection, of course, with Arrowfield stud 20 years ago. The winner of this very race was Sunday Joy.
Sunday Joy's a neck in front of Shower of Roses. They're clear of Bramble Rose, but Sunday Joy getting good luck at last. Sunday Joy wins the AJC Australian Oak.
Back to the horses. What about Sunday Joy? another connection with Arrowfield.
Yes, and a connection with Arrowfield, of course, a connection with John Singleton. She was magical. She was a very beautiful filly, very, I can use the word sexy. She was really, and I do think horses are sexy. They've got to have that sort of element of something special about them, some little essence that you're hopefully seeing. But we secured her in one bid, and it was very, you know, in those days it was sort of a bit unusual. And of course Singo does things in different ways. And then of course she went on to be not only a top class race filly, winning the Oaks, but then she went on to be a top class broodmare for John Singleton.
Oh, the dam of More Joyous.
Absolutely.
More Joyous.
Well,
what a racehorse.
Oh, she was fantastic. She was tough as teak. She was such a good, competitive, determined mare. And, you know, you could feel she was rolling up her sleeves to go into battle. Those sort of horses are just, they're divine.
Fashions of Field. How do you remember Fashions of Field? Of course, AJ Sire's produce, second in the slipper.
Very, very competitive filly. You know, those good fillies, or any good racehorse, exposes himself very early. There's only one or two who haven't, Platinum Scissors and Linesman, but most of them show themselves very early, and they show this just as special, something special about them. Usually because they're very fluid, they're very athletic. And Fashions of Field was exactly that. She was a very athletic filly, she was a very competitive filly, and she was very brilliant.
Magic of Sydney?
God, you are testing me.
I know, I'm winding the clock back here. It's almost like this is your life, isn't it?
It is.
I need a big red book rather than the black folder.
Magic of Sydney was the most handsome horse you would ever see, and I just fell in love with him, as I did with Nothing Like a Dame. But Nothing Like a Dame was maybe a little bit more of a brute type, you could say. Magic of Sydney was just drop-dead gorgeous. He was such a handsome horse, and beautiful gait, and very, very fluid horse, really lovely.
Look at a horse like Sweet Idea, third in the slipper.
And she was a fantastic filly, and it's interesting that a filly that we have at present that ran in the slipper but didn't run as well, Platinum Jubilee, in many ways reminds me of her. Very athletic, very lovely filly. She was a top price filly of that year of the sales, and you know, I just had to have her, because I knew that if I didn't have her, we'd be missing a major star in our stable, and that's exactly what she was.
There's magic to this industry, isn't there? Here we are in the middle of the autumn, the championships, we saw the slipper. And when you come to a place like Arrowfield and you see very much the cradle to grave mentality, the wonder of, and it happens so quickly, their horses can go from being foals to out and out champions like that.
Too quickly, and when I look at this page of the catalogue, I realise it's all too quickly, because sometimes there are 4 generations that I've trained on the page. But it's a great breeding ground, and they've got lovely, as you can see in the background there, you've got lovely hill in the background, which they need. You know, to be successful racehorses, you've got to have horses stretching and extending from a very early age. And that's what Arrowfield provides. It provides great pastures, but it also incorporates lovely hill-type undulating countryside, which is so important.
Finally, what do you look for? I know you don't know what's under the engine sometimes. We don't know exactly what a horse is going to be, but people like you have been around this and have got such a keen eye. What are you looking for when you're looking at these yearlings?
I often say it's like a boy looking at a girl. You don't have to say she's a pretty sort, you know it. And looking at a horse, you're first of all looking for an athlete. So I don't worry about the walk, because Dad used to say, TJ used to say, I'm not buying a horse to win a walking race, you're buying an athlete. So when I go to the sale, they might have all sorts of different gaits, but I'm looking for the horse that has that essence, that when he or she walks out of the box, there's just something that stays in your mind. And funny enough, the horses that really do stay in my mind, I try to get our owners to try to secure, and so often they happen to be the really, you know, the autumn ballet, horses like that, or Nothing Like a Dame, you know, they become the sort of rising stars or champions.
There is a reason she is the queen of the turf. What a great interview, Timmy, with Gay. 2-part series there. It was lovely.
Easy to talk to Gay.
Oh, you
She's
could listen
so
to her all day. Lovely, lovely. Well, stay with us. We catch up with James Harron next at this year's Easter Yearling sale with some breaking news as well. You're watching Racing Dreams.
Good to have you company. Easter time racing dreams. Well, we often talk about it and they do come true. Our next guest could well be living theirs. We're joined by a couple of members of the New South Wales Tycoons who are part of the Racing League. Good morning, Oscar and Craig. Oscar, tell us about being a part of this wonderful group.
Good morning, guys. The TRL's pretty awesome, even though we feel like we might own it here or for the horse. We still get the owner updates. We feel like we own the horse 100%. We're getting the updates from Mark this morning on Cool Jakey. It's a pretty cool thing to be a part of. We're here on these big days at Royal Wamrick. Yeah, it's very cool.
Craig, tell us why you wanted to become part of a concept like the Racing League and a member of the New South Wales Tycoons.
Oh yeah, well, my dream was always to own a share in a racehorse, but obviously get priced out of it these days. So when the TRL come along with a great value for a micro syndication, I thought, why not jump at the chance? And I've had fun ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Oscar, Cool Jakey, starting as favourite in today's South Pacific. You say that you've been updated by Mark Newnham. What's the latest?
Mark said to us this morning he's fighting fit and ready to go. Said the heavy ground won't slow him up at all, so hopefully we get a win on the board today. It'd be pretty cool.
I tell you what, Craig, that's exactly what you want to hear on a big day like today. 2 wins and a third for Cool Jakey already. This guy's taken you on a bit of a ride. How's it been for you and the other owners?
Oh, it's been sensational, really. To have a runner at Randwick here during the midweeks the other day is absolutely fantastic. But to have a runner today, day 2 of the championships, you couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, and Oscar, you've had other horses, of course, as part of the New South Wales Tycoons, horses like Luna Rocks. Tell us a bit more about you guys, Blue Torpedo.
Luna Rocks, yeah, she's out for a spell at the moment, but hopefully she'll be back in the stable soon. She was obviously a very talented horse and they thought a lot of her, but she should be back fighting fit when she comes back into work.
Yeah, has it lived up to expectations, Craig? You said that you wanted to have horse ownership, and these days with what you guys are doing and many people like you, you can get in, you can feel the win, you can be a part of the big race days?
Yeah, that's exactly right. TRL make you feel like you're part of the real ownership group, even though we might only own a hair or strand of the horse. But all the updates you get from the trainers and the TRL administration, you feel really part of it. And when you get together like days like today, it's real exciting.
Oscar, the trainers that you're associated with as well, we're talking the likes of Mark Newnham, Gai Waterhouse and Adrian Bott, Kim Waugh, and Will and Richard Freeman also have Etched in Time, which is a 2-year-old colt that they apparently have a great opinion of. Is this one that's worth watching?
Yeah, talking about the trainers, like getting an update from Gai Waterhouse would be something I would have dreamed of as a kid. You know, like the horses she's trained over the years. That's pretty cool. And like going on with that colt, yeah, they're talking big things on him, so pretty excited.
Finally, Craig, I know you guys have got to go, but how will you be reacting if Cool Jakey gets the chocolates today? Will we see you jumping up and down?
Oh, well, I get excited about anything, so probably not have to throw me out the race course if it certainly wins and salutes today, that's for sure.
All right, well, you guys enjoy it, and happy Easter, and congratulations to you and the whole crew.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Such a great concept, and we'll definitely have to keep an eye out on Cool Jakey today, because with a little bit of give in the ground, they might be, Oscar and Craig might be jumping around or being booted out of Randwick.
I kept wanting to call him Felix because of Oscar and Felix, the odd couple, you know. All right, another great run by Giga Kick last weekend to finish second in the TJ Smith behind I Wish I Win. The two now share favouritism for October's Everest.
I can't believe we're talking about it already. So will James Harron team up with Giga Kick again in 2023? James Harron knows how to pick an Everest winner too. You caught up with him earlier in the week, Timmy, for Racing Dreams.
Giga Kick down the outside, wins the Everest. The unbeaten 3-year-old's done it.
Well, I mentioned on the show last week, James Harron hasn't taken the smile off his face since Giga Kick won the Everest. it is always an opportunity to reflect on a wonderful day. That was just extraordinary. The jumping up of Clayton, but the smile on your face.
Yeah, no, it's every time you mention it, it certainly draws a smile, and it was a wonderful thrill for all the owners and all the people that are in our slot for the Everest, and also for his breeder and their whole team, and Jonathan Munns, and of course what a story with Clayton Douglas, who's continued to do a great job with the horse. We saw him most recently running an amazing second in the TJ on very testing ground. So a great horse, and I think a lot more big wins to come for him.
Yeah, it was a storming finish in the race before, and the challenge, and to come second, third, then second. I know you went very late last year with the Everest. You're already thinking you want to slot him in?
Yeah, look, he's certainly in the mix in a very, very big way, of course. So. Look, we've got a great relationship with the team, with Giga Kick. Obviously, we had that experience together. He was coming in as a 20-to-1 pop. We all took a lot of faith in each other in terms of that decision. And yeah, who's not to say we'll do it again?
Yeah, I can't believe it. I sat with you at the draw and I didn't have $1 on Giga Kick anyway. That's my stupidity, which happens from time to time. Now, let's have a look at a few other things. What about Cannonball? Cannonball, that was a fantastic run in the Galaxy to finish third. Could have been second. What happens with him next?
Yeah, look, he's really had a fantastic preparation. He came down to Sydney and ran a really brilliant win against the older horses when he was still a little overdone, and backed up just a week later to run third in the Galaxy. Just put him on good ground, and his form's absolutely outstanding. Of course, he had that wonderful form around Giga Kick in the Danehill last preparation, and look, he does need good tracks, and we're highly considering maybe sending him into Royal Ascot this year. It's a big team discussion at the minute. We've had an invitation from Royal Ascot to do so, and the 5 furlong straight, 9 times out of 10 you get firm tracks over there in the English summer, so it's a big conversation point with us at the minute, but it would be a very exciting step for what is a very progressive colt.
You've just given us a little bit of subtle breaking news there. Cannonball to Royal Ascot.
Well, quite potentially, but a little bit of water to go under the bridge, but yeah, like I say, we're giving it huge consideration.
Big yarn. We might have to go. Racing Dreams live from Royal Ascot.
I mean, I'm available. I can do it. Get your
passport stamped.
Get your pen and paper ready. Brad Gray, he's coming up next with all your Saturday tips for day 2 of the championships at Royal Randwick.
Great to have your company on Racing Dreams.
A 10-race card.
You won't believe what we talk about at the ad breaks. Mainly from her.
Don't you dare. A 10-race card, including 4 Group 1s for day 2 of the championships. Let's break it all down with our tipster, Sky Racing analyst, Brad Gray. Good morning to you, Bradley.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Here we are at Randwick again. A little bit windy at the moment, but at least it's not raining, so that's a plus compared to last week, albeit when we did this part of the show last week, we were blazed in sunshine, weren't we? And then we got a bit of a downpour. So I know last week wasn't great as far as the tipping side of things, but I think we'll bounce back in a big way today, guys.
Yeah, you've got to stay strong, stay positive. That breeze could help the track as well, Brad. Of course, heavy 8. Is there any chance it could move into that soft range?
Yeah, well, we've got the right conditions, as you say, Tim. So really windy at the moment. At the moment, it would be blowing them home there, so a bit of a tailwind in the straight. So that's something to keep an eye on. But the sun is out, so who knows? Maybe we do end up on a soft 7, which would be a good result.
We saw last week just how much of an impact that track, and albeit there were a lot of rain around and really tough conditions, but what an impact that had on the results. So many outsiders crossing that line. What do you think of today's track and how it might fare for some of these Group 1s?
Yeah, well, it was a bookies day, wasn't it? It was a bookies by knockout. Unfortunately, us punters, he copped a bit of a blow there. But I think today's track will be pretty fair. Of course, you're still looking for those horses that will handle the go-in, because we're dealing with a track that did see a fair bit of action there just 7 days ago. So monitor how it might play. There is going to be a bit of wear towards the inside of the track. Does that mean a few jockeys want to get towards the outside? Maybe, but that's something we'll keep an eye on as the day unfolds. But as far as last week compared to this week, I don't think you'll need to be finding those horses that want it bottomless, but you do want to find those horses that can handle the sting out of the ground.
Well, let's have a look at a few of these races. Provincial Championships final, race 4.
Yeah, Provincial Championships final today. So I'm with Kobe, trained by Sam Kavanagh. So he's won 4 of his starts for Sam, so all 4 starts. And he's building an impressive little CV, this horse. I've actually made him the best bet across the card. So to get into the final, he won at Gosford, despite not really being a Gosford horse. Now, when I say that, Gosford is a tight track, whereas at Randwick, he's got this nice big open space to let down. That was only 1,200 metres. Today's 1,400 metres. And I'd be very surprised if Kobe didn't go to another level again, and I think he'll come out and justify favouritism in this race. That's no knock on Short Shorts. I think she's the danger, but I'm very keen on the chances of Kobe.
4 Group 1s today. It all starts race 6, the Australian Oaks.
Yeah, now this is a bit of a head scratcher. I spent way too long in this race, and I think I just made myself more confused. So we're going back to 7 days ago to the Adrian Knox form. Now, the Adrian Knox typically is for those fillies that haven't quite been to the top level yet, and they can just come through the back door. And didn't we see Arts make a bit of a statement there in the Adrian Knox? So it was a heavy 9. Today we're only dealing with a heavy 8, but she's got that race fitness now. We know that she'll get through the conditions, no problem whatsoever. And I do think she's the horse to beat. Pavitra's the current favourite. Maybe a little question mark in terms of whether she wants it too wet today as this wind really starts to kick up. But I do think Arts is the horse to beat. If you want a roughie in the race, I do think Premise will run some kind of race at double-figure odds.
What about King Frankel in the Sydney Cup?
Yeah, I like him. Hopefully you do too, Tim. King Frankel, Cleveland's the favourite at the moment, but Mark Newnham has said all along that the Sydney Cup has been the aim for this horse. He was good in the Tancred. He was left exposed, wide and working a long way from home. Yet there he was, still only beaten a length. He drops 9 kilos. And you look at the history of the Sydney Cup most recently, and it does tend to favour those horses that are right down in the weight. So I can see the money's come for him, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. I think he's very hard to beat today, King Frankel.
There has been a lot of talk about this year's Queen Elizabeth Stakes, and rightly so. We've got Animo in what could be is likely to be his last appearance here in Australia, going up against William Haggis's Dubai Honour. Of course, you've got the Japanese runner as well, but William Haggis himself has said this is not going to be a 2-horse race. What do you think?
Yeah, well, so often that is the case, isn't it, Julie? When we just say, well, these 2 horses and they should fight at the finish, generally racing has a funny way of reminding us that, yeah, it can throw up funny results. The Japanese horse, he's going to be hard to beat. He's a wild card in it. Unicorn Lion, Zayrek is absolutely airborne at the moment. The market does suggest the 2 horses to beat are Animo and Dubai Honour. I'm with Dubai Honour. It feels a little bit un-Australian to go against him. It's one of those scenarios where your heart says Animo, but your head is saying Dubai Honour. He was so dominant in the Rambit Stakes. You touched on William Haggis before, Julian, and he's a horse with a horse trainer with a proven track record in terms of bringing the right horses to Australia. We saw him bring out a Dave to beat Very Elegant. She was the queen of Australian racing, and now he's brought out one to potentially conquer the king of Australian racing, Animo. So Dubai Honour, the sting out of the ground. I think he'll get through the wet conditions, no problem whatsoever. And on the way, he won the Rambit by 4 lengths, beating horses like Montefilia and Moanga. I think he's the horse to beat. Yep, not a lot between them though.
How do you think Animo will handle the track?
Yeah, well, I don't think he's at his optimum on heavy ground. That said, his biggest win ever, or biggest margin ever, was in the Rosehill Guineas, and that was on a heavy surface, albeit against the 3-year-old. So I know the stable were a little bit doubtful coming into this, hoping that storm last night didn't hit. Thankfully for us, it did dodge us, because his biggest failure, I guess you could say, Animo, was in this race 12 months ago, albeit it was on a much worse track than we've got today. So I think it does favour Dubai Honour and kicks into his stamina and takes away that turn of foot from Animo. But in improving heavy 8 and maybe even a 7, I think it's fair game and the best horse wins.
And just lastly, we'll get your thoughts on the Queen of the Turf Stakes as well. We might get the guys to bring your graphic up so we can have a look at your roughies and best bets as well.
Yeah, Queen of the Turf, I think this is the best edition of the Queen of the Turf we've seen in a long time. This is one of the roughies I like, actually, Statement. So everybody was aboard Statement. She's an Irish-trained mare last starting Emancipation. That was on a good track. She's a wet tracker. So all of a sudden the market's completely brushed her. So have something each way on Statement in the Queen of the Turf. Now, the best roughies, I've made race 2 Rosita. That's in the South Pacific Classic, trained by Chris Lees. She's got really good depth of form behind some fillies at the moment, the likes of Zugotcha, In Secret, Fireburn, She's a Belter, the list goes on. And we'll save one for the last, as we always like to do. This former American trained mare, Princess Grace. She's got a bit of class and she's going in race 10. So roughies come up in race 2 and race 10. And the best of the day, as we touched on, comes up in race 4. That is Kobe.
What do you think about Autumn Ballet and the Percy Sykes?
I like her. Yeah, I think she's a lovely filly. Not a lot of speed in the race either, so Tim Clark punches up, barrier 1, maybe holds the front, and yeah, if she repeats what she did in the Black Opal, she's the horse to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the male model from Miranda, best on ground today, already has won the Fashions on the Field for the men's section, and it hasn't even got to 10 o'clock in the morning. Great to see you, buddy. Enjoy your day. Where are you positioned today? Are you in the ballroom with the prawns? Where are you?
No, I'm not going to skip home after this. I'm going to do the form for Warwick Farm on Monday, so racing never sleeps.
Oh, so if you want your photos and your autographs with Brad Gray, you better quickly run down to the mounting yard now. He won't be there for much longer.
Yeah.
He'll be taking his appearances for the
Before
next
this
half
wind
an
kicks
hour.
into gear and it blows me up into the tree.
Grab a Villies pie from the media area on your way home. Good to see you, buddy.
Bye, Brad.
See you guys. See you guys.
As always, thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Peter and the team at Racing New South Wales, of course, John Massara and the gang at Arrowfield, and all our friends at the Australian Turf Club who help us out so much, and Sky Racing, and Lizzie Jols for coming on today as well.
Yeah, another great program, another great day of racing ahead here at Royal Randwick. We'll see you again next week. Racing Dreams.
See you then.